Cavern of Rewards. Foreword. On the 14th day of December 2050 in London City, United Kingdom, you can see the clock and the palace in the distance, in which this country and what remains of a monarchy are represented, the small rays that illuminate the tower of the clock with the sunset, and it being 5 in the afternoon. The city is big. You can hear the small car engines crossing the small avenues of the city, the engines of boats driving in the city canals, the footsteps of people in the street, people walking leaving the stations of trains. It's a clear day, something unusual in London. People continue with their life routines, work, get out of the stress of work, and are somewhat tired of the stress of transportation. There are more people every day, dressed in black suits and white ties, than those who leave the offices after a day of work. The industrial workers are full of metal dust after working a day in the factory. There are more Muslims. Little by little, you see less English in the city. Although technology has advanced in the world, people continue to use public transport routes, subways, and buses with better amenities, although there is no longer anyone to drive them. In a small street called Wilson, far from the big avenues and people, near a canal in London, you can see the entrance to a bar. On the outside, full of orange bricks and wooden doors, it has no windows, just a small mural of concerts or fights to come. And above the door, an old wooden sign hangs that says, "The Cavern of Rewards," a place where people seek to satisfy their desires. When you enter, you see the tables full of people. At one table, you see some people taking a while. At another table, they watch a fight in a ring that is in the middle of the place. Or others are having fun and shouting furiously, being spectators of what happens in the ring. Perhaps their bets are too high. At another table, you hear others telling their stories of adventures to attract attention and rewards for their exploits, and thus impress some girls who visit the place. There is another floor above where the VIPs are to watch the fight from, the most refined seats, and only special and very important people watch from there. On the left side of the first floor, next to a wall, you can see a bar, and on the other side, on the right, you can see a wall full of posters that have "wanted" written on them, and a drawing of some people who were once humans or human beings. Sought after for certain reasons, also for somewhat rare creatures, and the price above ranges from 1,000 silver coins to 1,000,000 silver coins. In the middle, there is a fighting ring, and you can see 2 men fighting, testing each other, and beautiful women around, looking for easy prey, a night of passion to earn a little money from these men who have spent weeks away. Most people carry equipment, long guns, rifles, swords, and silver or gold bullets. Some leave silver coin tips, ounces as a tip. The currency is still the euro, but a silver coin is worth a total of 500 euros. With that, you pay for 2 days of work. However, there are 5 guys at one of the tables, while 2 pretty girls approach the table and start a conversation with one of them. They ask someone called Emmanuel, "Hello here? Would you mind if we have a seat with you?" And the next woman went on to add, "Would you like us to make you some company here with your friends?" Emmanuel was dressed in blue jeans, a dark green shirt, and a long, slightly thick brown jacket. He was wearing a light gray cap. In his jacket, he carried 2 types of concealed pistols with a small staff and an arrow-shaped spearhead. Emmanuel is a Spaniard from the Valencia region, and he responds with a Spanish accent to the little ladies. Emmanuel responded with a Spanish accent in English, "Just let me know your intentions, young ladies, and who sent you." They insist, "Our client wants to have a fight with you." Then one of the boys at the table, an American man named William, interrupted. William was dressed in a casual suit, a blue jacket, a white shirt, and beige-colored dress pants. He looked like he was 25 years old, with blonde hair, dark eyes, and very handsome white skin, a very dry and serious type of person, but very handsome for girls. Then Willem responded with his American accent and was somewhat excited by the proposal. "If the reward is to have a good night with you ladies, I wouldn't mind fighting with your client because my friend Emmanuel looks like he is in a bad mood." They, very happy, smiling at William, said, "Wow, then it's a deal, sweetie." Then she responded in a tone of humiliation, looking at William with arrogance. Another of those sitting at the table was called Alexandre de Pierre, a Frenchman. He had a pale face. He looked about 35. He dressed like someone from the 1920s from France, with a brown hat, brown pants, gray braces, and a gray vest. He covered his white shirt around him, very well dressed, and a jacket that matched. However, he had a lively but somber and dull appearance in his expressions. She then tells William, "All this wouldn't have happened if you hadn't started a fight last night." William answers, somewhat smiling, "It's like when I decided to fight you, if you remember how we met in a ring and for a meal." He finished saying it with laughter. Then another of the people at the Jetzone table interrupted, somewhat surprised, and said, "So they already knew each other. And of course, if William hadn't provoked him, he wouldn't have had to fight Emmanuel." Jetzane was dressed like a cowboy, but he wore a gray suit, a brown hat, 2 gloves with sharp rings, white skin. He looked like a person of 20. He had 2 guns, one a silver gun and the other a gold gun. He had a bow and a spear that he carried behind his back, and an insignia of a sheriff or bailiff. 2 holsters where he had his 2 spears in the middle of his hip, one on his right and the other on the left. Emmanuel continued, not so surprised by what was said. "I knew it. It was already very moving for me to see them work together. And all because of William." William was defending himself and making a serious but sarcastic face. Sure, but whoever was in a hurry to get information was willing to fight and get angry. Emmanuel got up from his seat, a little angry at the provocation, and William continued to follow him with a sarcastic smile. And finally, the last man at the table was interrupted by a man named Sakamoto Kusanagi. He wore cowboy-style clothing similar to Jetzine. He had a black hat, his dark hair was in a braid that reached his back. He looked about 37. He had a small gold pistol lined with diamonds, a medium katana at his side, a spear and bow on his back. He had a jacket, but you could see his Japanese style in his clothes. Coming from his culture, he was very serious, a man of few words. He used to use a type of drug that increases his strength, and knows all kinds of martial and hunting arts in this business. He was the #1 hunter on the European and Asian continents. Kusanagi responds, somewhat tired of this performance by both of them and angry at the interruption of these young girls. "Look, they both follow their survival instincts like wolves and vampires, races that always have problems between them." Emmanuel and William reacted and calmed down. "You're right, Sakamoto." He continues to be somewhat relieved, Gitarni, and addressing these beautiful ladies. "Well, it's a deal, girls. Let your boss know about the fight." The girls responded, "Okay, we got everything ready." And finally, Sakamoto said, "Tell your boss, the fight will be 2 versus 2. I'm in." The other 4 were surprised to hear Kusanagi say that and put a smile on her face, very happy for what they would see. William responds by speaking his thoughts out loud and with an excited smile. "Then it will be an unforgettable night. I will have to get serious about this." The girls left very happy with the answer and were direct with whoever had sent them to one of the tables on the 2nd floor. Therefore, the conversation of everyone at the table continued. "Well, it's a surprise to see you interested in fighting," Alexander said to Sakamoto. Sakamoto is a little disappointed to see his colleagues like this. Well, I'm interested in listening to his love stories as we had agreed. It's better that I remove the interruptions since it will be a long night." "Aha! I see that if you are interested in hearing our stories, Kusanagi," Emmanuel responds, happy to hear that answer. Jetzane continues by saying, "Well, we have little to know each other, and, well, if we work together for a long time, it is good to know each other." Alexander is somewhat unsure of that. Not all of us have beautiful love stories with happy endings, you know? William makes fun of what he said a little and sends a hint to Emmanuel. And we are not all the same age. Emmanuel sees his intentions in his comment, and something heartfelt follows him. I see that some animals have not been domesticated yet. William, seeing something about him, was interested in the response of his friend Emmanuel. He says, "Ha! At least I can see the sunlight," and he suddenly interrupts Sakamoto to stop their fighting. They look like a dog and a cat. Anyway, they come back with some papers. The two girls returned and had a tag or their names near them, Margaret and Lauren. Alexander responded with a bit of mockery. It looks like they are local workers. William, somewhat disappointed, responds, Oh then, they are from here. What a pity! One of the girls. Margaret approaches Sakamoto and holds out the papers for him to sign. Lauren goes to the other side of the table and approaches William, smiling at him and whispering in his ear. My offer is still available. William, happy, signs and tells her, approaching her face near her lips with a provocative look. It will have to be one of these days in the week. She is amazed, and as if feeling butterflies in her stomach and captivated by her response, she tells him, I will be waiting. Emmanuel interrupts with a fake cough. Who? Go get ready! Lauren and Margaret, after receiving the signed documents, leave. Then Jetsane adds something to Emmanuel's comment, although a few minutes have passed. It's good that you don't underestimate your opponents. And turning to see William. Never think that you are the only little wolves out there. William understood what Jetson meant and got up from the chair, retreating to the place designated for the fight. As Sakamoto gets up from his chair, Jetsane approaches and tells him, Even though we had the same teacher, you didn't need to tell me that, friend. After saying that, Sakamoto leaves, focused on his mission to wait at the designated place with William. While Jetsane, somewhat melancholy, says, I just don't want to lose another partner. Alexander, curious about what he heard his companions say, and knowing that there is a bit of history between them, asks Jetsane. I see that they already knew each other too, but why do you say that, friend? Jetsane answers the question somewhat sentimentally. I wouldn't want to lose another partner, especially one of the last remaining disciples of my master. Alexander, more curious about wanting to hear his story, prefers not to ask and wait until after the fight, but tells Jetsane. I think I'll really enjoy hearing your story, friend. Jetsane, with a mocking tone, says, There's not much to say, just a love story and how it ends here, friend. Emmanuel, entering the conversation, tells him, I think it will be interesting to hear your story, friend, since I have not met a guy like you, and your kind is super strange. Jetsane tells him, asking himself at the same time, Well, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. And after saying that, he sees a TV coming out of the ceiling coming down, and as everyone around begins to talk, excited to hear the event to come, since the previous fight has ended, the commentator who starts the fight is about to approach. Interesting fights of the night. And turning his gaze to his companion, he says to her, I think I'll enjoy listening to Alexander more, since I haven't met a guy like you either. He starts listening to the music in the background, and the commentator grabs the microphone. People stop talking, and excitedly waiting to hear what he says, he returns his gaze to his companion and says it to both of his companions. There is nothing special, but I will still enjoy continuing this beautiful conversation and night of drinks. Then the three turn to look at the commentator, although he will start to say, Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to give entrance to our spectacular fight this night, and we have a special day today. All the people inside the special place, and seeing that it will be broadcast live in all places in the country and in other countries, the commentator continued to announce. Because tonight, we have the best fighters in the country. Mr. Crodwell Rossman was a tall and good-looking man, English from there, white skin, and was an MMA fighter. He was about 25. He had strength and endurance above a normal person. He was good-looking. People around them are surprised to know that someone so famous would fight today, even those who watched him on television. A child is surprised. "Wow, Mother, one of the best fights today." Continuing and returning to the place, the commentator continues, happy to do his job, while everyone around was still surprised and saying to each other, who would be the one who would take the last fight of the night? Someone more famous than Crodwell? The commentator continues and introduces the Caldwell Rossman while the people shouted excitedly, even those who were watching the fight on television and were surprised by this surprise, although the other fights had been canceled. And continues with the next fighter saying, "I know tonight you are surprised to hear this fight and probably no one expected it. Are you a formal champion to fight tonight? But this guy is a special guest," he continued, giving an excuse and exciting the people. He is a former United States fighter in MMA. While Sakamoto, who was with Wylams, asks him, "I didn't know you were an MMA fighter." William responded, "I do it for fun. I hunt, and in my free time I have fights, although of course I'm just looking to see if I can find a strong opponent like me." Sakamoto, impressed, tells him, knowing his intentions, "I guess you're looking for people from that tribe who are like you." William, wiping away his smile and melancholy, says, "I would like to see others like them, the ones those Native Americans created for me." He then walked towards the stands to enter the ring as the commentator gave the entrance, saying, "Welcome to William McFly." People shouted excitedly, giving him a spectacular entrance. William waved back to the people as he entered the ring. Then the commentator gets down, and a fence comes out of the ground that covers the entire ring. They close everything with the bars, forming a cage like in MMA fights. When the count is over, a referee is seen and announces the start of the fight. William waits and gets into a fighting position as Rossman runs straight towards him. He delivers a direct blow to William's face that is heard, since Rossman is a man with strength a little above human. However, the blow he receives on his right cheek pushes him directly against the fence, throwing him a few meters back. Rossman runs against him. While William rallies, dazed, he begins to make small jumps. Even though he has a little blood in his mouth, he spits it out, and just when Rossman launches an attack, jumping with his 2 feet, he jumps about 6 meters high in an upward direction. William. Just as Rossman hits the fence, William drops on top of him with both feet on Rossman's face, pushing him to the ground and causing him to crash against the floor of the ring. After hitting him with that blow, he jumps back with a rope and hits again with the heel of his right foot, right where the referee stops him, and before hitting the face, William stops a few centimeters before hitting the impact. Rossman had been knocked unconscious from the first blow, a surprise to everyone, since it was only a leap into the sky that he had so much strength to knock him out. He was surprised and checked on Rossman to see if he was okay. He walks around, making the fight over signal, and approaches William. He grabs his right hand and raises his hands along with him, giving the victory symbol like an MMA fighter. The spectators inside the place are excited and surprised by what happened. It almost didn't seem like an MMA fight, although it was to be expected that it wouldn't be like that, since it is an all-around fighting ring. The bars return to their positions, and the ring remains like a normal ring. William leaves and goes to where Sakamoto is, while the others take the Rossman to a place where they tend to the wounds and clean the ring. When one of the workers cleaning the floor looked, he saw where the impact of Rossman's head went. He sees that the ring had a sunk-shaped blow. And the worker is surprised, since that ring, although it has a resistant cotton platform that is hard to hit, the worker knew that underneath the cotton it has metal. Sakamoto smiles and tells William how he is going to give a lecture to a person. "You should be careful. It's obvious that you used a little more force than expected, although I know you held back." William defended himself by responding like this. "You know, I only increased my strength by 20% of normal just to finish it soon, since I'm excited to see you fight." Sakamoto gets up, goes in the direction of the ring, and says, "If I had the strength you have, I would have taken it calmer like you." William puts his left hand up and scratches his head, somewhat embarrassed, while Sakamoto continues talking. "I have to risk it. One false hit like that and I would have died against Rossman," William tells him. "Ha ha, but if you are the best at skiing, your reflexes are incredible." Sakamoto, responding to William's sarcasm, says, "Maybe I can ski well, but you know what's coming won't be easy for me. I'm going against another hunter and one who likes to take titles." He continued on his way and got into the ring. The ring was like new and ready for the fight. The commentator got up quickly and began to speak, giving an exciting entrance to Sakamoto under the microphone, and the commentator said to Sakamoto, "We couldn't wait a little longer." Sakamoto tells the commentator, "Just do your job, bro, and let's get over this." The commentator continued while the audience was surprised to hear Sakamoto's name and understood that he was one of the most famous hunters in Asia and Europe. They soon gave respect to that name, shouting with excitement to see him. Likewise, on television, people who saw him from other places in that type of cabin were surprised to see him and see for the first time a famous cazador like him in a fighting ring. The commentator entered by saying this after describing his next opponent. "Welcome to Mario Coppola." Sakamoto says he is exulting and somewhat disappointed by this. This fight will really be somewhat complicated. Upon hearing the full name of Sakamoto's taxpayer, everyone is surprised, even those who watched from the television above in other places and countries in other cities. Saying, "I know that the Argentine from the American continent is not the best hunter in America." Mario Coppola was an Argentine dressed as a hunter. He was about 22. When the commentator left, not a single fuss was raised, and with a time marker on the television above with a 1-minute countdown that was decreasing, it came out like a transparent glass that closed everything around it that reached up to the ceiling. The count ends, and the commentator announces the start of the fight. Fast. Mario pulls out a black gun and shoots Sakamoto, while Sakamoto lifts the thin coat he was wearing and covers himself with it, blocking and deflecting the bullets. And with that, he takes advantage and throws some small knives quickly, running to Mario's side, narrowly avoiding each one. While Sakamoto takes out a katana, running in his direction and throwing a light bomb in the direction with the other hand, he closes his eyes as it explodes. Mario was cut down because he was distracted dodging the small knives that were thrown by a total of 8. Sakamoto is ready to attack with his sword, rising upwards and giving the attack. Mario, still mowing, dodged him and turning back with his right foot, took out a small stick from his shoe, pointing it at Sakamoto's head. While seeing this and being about to be shot quickly, he deflects his entire body to the side, barely dodging the bullet but receiving a rosin on his right cheek. Then Mario, upon finishing turning around and landing on his feet, takes out a fencing sword with his right hand and, with his left, the pistol that he quickly loads by throwing the cartridge and hitting it with his siren, reloading the pistol. Sakamoto pulls out a small detonator and holds it up, hoping it will fall back. Then Mario launches, shooting, while Sakamoto covers himself with his coat and jumps back. He sees that Mario launches a direct attack to the right foot. Sakamoto jumps and kicks it with his 2 feet, throwing it to where Mario lived before. Then, fast on the ground, Sakamoto covers and the detonator explodes. The detonator is a small, powerful bomb that pushes everything. It can leave a person injured, but it is not like grenades that cause mortal wounds. It is more the force it has to explode from a distance. That helps sometimes when there are too many monsters or humans to keep them away, but it also helps other people. Then the detonator explodes, where a strong explosion pushes both against the ring and passing the ropes against the glass, hearing a loud bang and leaving a small break in the Mario and Sakamoto trying to ration, but the impact leaves them immobile due to the pain. They feel. Then, Sakamoto quickly takes out a smoke bomb, covers the room, and points upward with a small pistol, bringing it up instantly. While Mario tries to recover and the smoke prevents him from seeing, he shoots at several places, trying to hit. While Sakamoto takes out a small gun with a sight, but loaded with electric discharge bullets so as not to kill, he shoots Mario. Mario felt something and put his hand over himself, covering himself and receiving the bullet directly in the hand that carries the gun, falling unconscious from the discharge. Sakamoto drops the thing, and with the mouth that was holding the shirt, he lets it fall to the floor. He kept his weapons and was checking to see if he had any wounds. The commentator announces the winner as a small hole opens in the ceiling and smoke disperses outward. They remove the glass, and everyone, excited to see that fight, shouts Kusanagi's name. Sakamoto retreats to William. Arriving with William, they head back to the table while the two girls carry 2 bags full of silver coins. After receiving and putting it on the table, Sakamoto and William sit in their respective places while the others say, "Wow, keep fighting, Sakamoto. You really surprised me, my friend," Jetsain says, praising Sakamoto for what he saw. Afterwards, Emmanuel, happy for not being his rival, tells Sakamoto, "It's good that I'm not like the others. Imagine that you would have to hunt me down and go against me. No way, crazy." Alexander tells William, "I would like to go sometime. Hire you to see who has more strength." William accepted the challenge and, with an excited face, said, "I look forward to that day." Several waitresses came over and brought several bottles. There was tequila, whiskey, vodka, beer, and many more, and they served our knights with them. Good health, friends, for the unity of this team. He said this, getting up from his seat and excitedly, waiting for the night to come. Emmanuel. Then he continued telling him and getting up along with the other companions. Jetsain. More because of the love and disaffection that brought us here, friends. And with that, Alexander interrupts him. For the misfortunes that formed us and led us here. William adds one more. For the stories we have. And finally, says Sakamoto, toasted in the same way. For the rewards that brought us here. Everyone toasted and sat down again, ready to listen to the stories, recompositions, loves and friends, hunts, and misfortunes that became the blessings of bringing this wonderful team together. And continuing the story, says Jetsain excitedly. He began to narrate the story of what he was saying. It all started as a night of excitement at a Hoki Allen game in the sub.